This video is for my community, Nativot Shalom in California, and also for anyone concerned about what we see happening in our democracy today in America. It's important for me to share this story first. In 2008, when President Obama was about to be elected, I remember receiving an email that morning from members of my community who said, "You, Rabbi, we know that you've been careful, even though we believe we know who you support as president, and it seems like he's going to win. We want you to know that we're voting the other way, and we want to know that our community is still a place that we can call home even though we disagree." And I was touched by their email, and I wrote back to them saying, of course, how proud I am to be their rabbi, and how our community is bigger than any candidate or any party, and we aren't a partisan community. When I shared that story with a student later, and I said how two members of the community were voting for someone that I disagreed with, the student said, "Well, why do they live here anyway?" And that was a significant wake-up call for me, because within what I consider a pluralistic community, any of our communities and their diversities, there is always a latent fundamentalism where I will say, I cherish diversity as long as you agree with me. And that remains the language that many communities use. We say that we cherish disagreement and plurality, pluralism and the dignity of the other, but what we really hope is that we can eventually convince everyone to think the way we do. I share that story because that isn't my goal. And it is clear that American democracy is bigger than any one idea. The checks and balances within our parties, within our system, they are meant to actually hold us to a higher truth than any one of us can generate. And so it is with that in mind that I call upon every person who hears this message to recognize that the politics of hatred must be called out wherever they rear their ugly head. So are you more upset that Donald Trump calls Mexican rapists, or that he suggests that Muslims should be denied entry into the United States, or that he doesn't stop the endorsement of white supremacists, or that people who attend his rallies are now creating militias, or that his encouragement of the most derogatory statements and terrible language and the underbelly of so much American anger is fomenting violence at his rallies? It is only a matter of time until someone is killed at one of his rallies. So whether you think that his politics line up with the historical reality of Mussolini, or whether you think that his charismatic personality, his power-hungry hate-mongering, more resembles Hitler in the early 30s, or if you think it's George Wallace, or if you think he is just a reality TV star willing to say anything to get us angry, to become the center of all of our conversations, you might be right about any one of those things or all of those things, but what is most important in this moment is that it isn't actually Donald Trump that matters. What matters most is the people who are listening to him, who are following him, despite the fact that his credentials as a conservative are false, that his co-opting of the Republican Party is destroying the Republican Party, that he is tearing at the very fabric of our society in a way that our system of racial injustice and mass incarceration is already making so strained. We will fall apart, and worse, if we do not come together. This is all hands on deck. This is a moment that calls for any person, whether you are a person of faith, whether you are a person who doesn't believe in God, a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, Black, Muslim, Jewish, Mexican, does not make a difference where your local community resides, what your political ideology is, except one. There can be no politics of hatred allowed in our democracy. This is not a partisan claim to vote in any one direction. This is a rejection of what is happening on our streets and in our society. Our more perfect union is less perfect because of the rise of Donald Trump. Are you wondering what to do? The first thing to do is go make a friend who disagrees with you, to talk about where hatred doesn't belong in the fabric of our society. And when you see Donald Trump say something yourself. When you see the danger of a society that is fracturing before our very eyes, do something about rebuilding it. Find someone who disagrees with you and become their friend, because as Brian Stevenson, the amazing, amazing civil rights activist of our time, has suggested, proximity is power. Become close to each other again. That is our call. Because if we don't, we are in danger of losing the very society that we hold dear. There is no room for hate. None. We have to come together, and we have to do it now, because if we don't, it's too late.